Good morning, folks. Welcome to the Rangers Reviews morning briefing on this Wednesday morning, the day before the trip to Denmark. I'm Joshua Barrie, joined by Jonny McFarlane, fresh from Stephen Gerrard's pre-Brondby press conferences. Lots of interesting takeaways, some good news on the injury front, and some not so good, but we'll get into that. Jonny, let's talk first about the good. Ryan Kent could travel tomorrow, presuming that he gets through the session today. Ryan Jack could feature at the weekend. Stephen Gerrard was quick to say that the international break will be important for him in terms of getting a load into his legs. He spoke about the potential of a bounce game, but it seems like both of those players are an inch away from the matchday squad, and that's much closer than the 7 to 10 days that has been the rhetoric prior, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. There's some light finally at the end of the tunnel when it comes to both these players, but especially Ryan Jack. Yeah. I know that in terms of the kind of spark of Rangers attack and play, Ryan Kent is the one that probably most people are excited about. But at the same time, having Ryan Jack out after such a long time, such a powerhouse in midfield, will add so much to Rangers, not only defensively, but, you know, in the latter stages of Jack's career, he's always been pretty tidy at getting forward into tough positions. Who could forget that volley? Was it against Hearts? Who was it against?
Last season.
Yeah. Kamara, yes, sorry. My memory is going alongside all my other faculties as I get older. But what a strike that was. And that shows you what you can do. So I think Ryan Jack is going to be huge. Mm-hmm. Ryan Kent, on the other hand, that's really interesting, Joshua. I suppose the question that I would throw back to you is, what do you think? Will he actually throw him into the fray after being out so long? Are we talking about an impact sub here that he can unleash on them in the last maybe 20 minutes?
Well, I guess it's hard to know because obviously I think Kent trained before the trip to Motherwell. So I think it's hard to know whether, you know, a manager could say, you know, he's close to being back with the group, and that could mean he's close to stepping out in the grass for the first time. Or he could say he's close to being back with the group, and that could mean they've, you know, assessed him for a week. They've kind of built up his load. And I think having followed this over the last couple of weeks, it seems to be that Ryan Kent and Ryan Jack certainly won't be rushed back from injury. So I don't think that's not a possibility. I guess it also probably will depend on the injury. We know Rangers use I think it's an AI company to help them kind of determine where their players are in terms of workload to try and prevent injury. So I think even just these players being back in the squad, Jonny, will be such a boost. You know, if you've got Ryan Kent and Ryan Jack on an away trip with you, I know Ryan Jack probably won't make tomorrow. It's a huge positive, and I think you're completely right about Ryan Jack. He's the player that I think you could argue type of player Rangers have missed most this season. So yeah, it will be a huge positive to have them both back. And Ryan Kent, would be surprised if he plays tomorrow. I think even just him there being with the squad will be a boost. A player that might not be there, there's a 50-50 chance, Gerrard said today's Glenn Kamara. He took 2 kicks to the same ankle against Motherwell, which is obviously a concern. And we know how important he is in European games in terms of allowing Rangers to play into pressure. And, you know, I think the management staff will anticipate pressure from Brondby tomorrow because Brondby need to win this game. But it would be a blow if Kamara wasn't in the starting 11 tomorrow, Jonny, wouldn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Listen, yeah, the start of the season, when we were going into these European qualifiers, and we saw Rangers play Alashkert and obviously Malmo. Yeah. To say that Glenn Kamara was missed would be something of an understatement in those games. Yeah. Simply put, European football is about possession and holding on to the ball. It's about controlling games. And that's his MO. So it's absolutely essential that Glenn Kamara makes it. It's really, really important. And we know that Brondby is going to be more of a physical style. We saw that in the first game. They're going to be less technical than a lot of the sides that Rangers have faced in this stage in the past. So that makes it all the more important that Rangers use the ball well. And Glenn Kamara is absolutely key to that. He's also key to covering whoever's playing left back. In this case, we'd imagine it'll be Calvin Bassey. Yeah. So if he's not in, I would worry about who's playing in that position. I assume it would be Scott Arfield. Maybe Joe Aribo. What do you think?
Well, Joe Aribo did that against Malmo, and he actually did it really well. If you remember, he played on the left-hand side with Barisic and Kent. I guess it depends then. Obviously, you look at the reverse leg and Lundstram and Davis played together. But that was more of a two-man midfield, and I'd anticipate after the weekend that Steven Gerrard will want to kind of maintain those wide triangles and have more of a, not so much a flat midfield three, but definitely more of a three than a two. Yeah. And I don't think either Arfield or Aribo is going to go into a two. So I don't think it's improbable that it's Arfield, Davis, and Aribo. But also, when saying that out loud, that's quite offensive for a European game away from home. So maybe you see John Lundstram come in and just tuck in on the left-hand side. But I do think Lundstram looks better central and not as good when he's pulled out to the wide areas of the pitch, Jonny. So we'll see. But yeah, I do think Aribo can progress play well and take the ball in pressurised areas. But he's also, you forget how good he is on interception basis. In that Malmo game, there was a couple of kind of turnovers of possession that were just caused by his sheer long legs and athleticism. So yeah, we shall see. Morning to James, who's saying he gets notification for the podcast, which is a good reminder for me to tell anyone watching on YouTube to put your notifications on and get notified anytime we go live. And good morning to Charlie Sanderson as well, tuning into the show. I asked Gerrard about Fashion Sakala today, Jonny, and the kind of different option that he brings from previous seasons in a European away game. And Gerrard was obviously referencing quickly that we've seen that in Prague to a degree, given his, I mean, he must start given his, his impact on Sunday. I can't see how he doesn't. And it's an exciting, different proposition that Rangers have from previous European ventures to go and attack the space, with someone like Sakala, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what I'm really excited about, Josh. Obviously, Sakala's going to play. Surely, I think people will be quite upset, I think, if he doesn't start. But what I'm now increasingly getting excited about is the potential for a Kent, Sakala, Morelos strike three. Now, I've been pretty critical of Morelos this season, and I still think he's off the pace. But I think if you're playing those two alongside him, they bring a lot of the things that he doesn't have in his game at the moment. And it really does play into this notion of Morelos as a deep line forward. To have that electric pace either side of him. Mm-hmm. And those guys moving forward into the number 9 position when Morelos does drop deep, which is quite often. I wonder if that's been the game plan all along, to be honest. And
keeping Kent fresh.
Yeah, well, no, I think having those two is kind of the guys that are going beyond.
Yeah.
Before, and so much detail over the years about how Rangers are kind of like a prototype of Liverpool in a way. The one difference for quite a long time has been the fact that there isn't that Robert Firmino character who's stepping in, and the two wingers who are coming inside and past that player. Maybe that's the final sort of evolution of it. Two lightning quick guys. I don't know. I think it's exciting though, and it'll be really interesting to see when it finally comes. It might be that it's Kamara fits better alongside those two. Who knows? But certainly it's a tantalising prospect, and I think this game is probably the first time you could say that has a chance of being the front three. I don't think it will be. I'm with you. I don't think they'll throw Kent in. But when it does come, it'll be really, really exciting.
And you've also got, I guess, if it is going to be one of Roof and Morelos at points, which presumably it will be in certain games as well. You've got Morelos can obviously link play, but Roof is more of a goal scorer, isn't he? And even look at him coming off the bench on Sunday, and I think Jack Simpson's header from watching it back was probably going to go in. But Roof, naturally, as any good goal scorer, couldn't help himself, which is what you want to see from a forward coming onto the pitch. And I think even there he gives you a different option in terms of he can come deep and link play. I don't think he switches play in the same way as Morelos. He's obviously stylistically a little bit different. Pardon me. But yeah, I think you can guarantee a goal return a little bit more with him at the moment. But as you say, I think Fashion Sakala will help Morelos in the way that he opens up space for him. I thought they actually connected quite well at the weekend. Obviously, they went. The second goal is from them going 2-on-1 on O'Donnell at the back post, which was good anticipation. So yeah, lots to look forward to. Gerrard also was referenced in a conversation with former Liverpool teammate Daniel Agger, in which Agger said the atmosphere at Brondby is one of the best in the world. Robbie there is commenting saying he's just leaving for the game, and passing on his thoughts to Walter and his family. He'll be there contributing to that atmosphere, and having watched the the Sparta game with Brondby, it certainly looks like a hot atmosphere. Their manager said there was going to be fire in the stands, and he used his asterisks very unironically at the post-match press conference after Ibrox. It'll certainly be a factor in the game tomorrow, though, won't it?
Yeah, it will be. I would imagine it'll be very, very, very loud and very, very aggressive, the atmosphere, based on those away fans at Ibrox. But listen, Rangers have handled that in the past. They've gone to difficult places and performed well without too much concern. I mean, crikey, they've gone and got a few good results in Parkhead. So if they can do that, they can do Brondby, no problem. I think it's going to be interesting to see how Rangers cope with the two wing backs, because we saw that the sort of three at the back caused problems for them when it was Malmo. It's not really something they come across that often in Scotland, is it? There's not many teams that are playing. There's
not many wing backs that are gonna gamble and jump up and push the fullbacks back in Scotland. Definitely not.
No, but certainly Malmo had a lot of success with that. So that's going to be a danger for Rangers, and they'll have to watch. But listen, Tavernier's in good form, Bassey's in good form. Mm-hmm. If Rangers can play the players that have that kind of electric pace either side of Morelos, then there should be a lot of space there to exploit, and that should be a positive in the end. I think it'll be a tight game.
Yeah.
Once again, and ultimately, I can see Rangers sneaking it though. I think they've got enough.
I think there's a few factors here. One being that they must win this game, Brondby. There's kind of no way around that. They need to win this game, and they need to, because they're at the bottom of the group. If they want to get second spot, they definitely can't afford to lose it. The other thing is Brondby are, out of the 32 teams in the Europa League, they're 30th on the non-penalty XG difference table. And what that means basically is, in terms of the chances they've conceded and the chances they've created, they're 30th out of 32 teams. So the first 3 rounds of fixtures shows that they're not a very good Europa League team. They've won now 3 games in a row in the Danish league. And there's been a slight upturn there, but in terms of, if you look at their first game against Sparta Prague, they had one shot on target inside the box, and Sparta really should have taken the points back to the Czech Republic. So I think they'll need to come out. I think the expectation, in particular from the crowd, will be that they come out and try and assert themselves. But I think that will really suit Rangers. I mean, look at the second goal at Motherwell. Pace and transition, but also directness, and Sakala just completely changes that from Rangers really looking a little bit blunt, I'd say, in some transitions earlier parts in the season. So I think it will suit Rangers down to the ground. I think that they've so often looked good with space in front of them in Europe. Players like Tavernier excel in it and can put in deliveries into areas in the box where there's not 10 players behind the ball. So we shall see. We'll just touch finally as well on Scott Arfield. Jonny, he was breaking back into the team about trying to get the balance right between his attacking and defensive responsibilities in a game like Sunday. A lot of positive things to say about the squad, and obviously delighted to be back in and about the team. Again, surely he has to start on. Is it tomorrow? It's tomorrow. Surely he has to start tomorrow after his impact coming into the team at the weekend.
Yeah, I thought he was excellent and added a lot to the team. We saw the best of Scotty Arfield for a period at the start of last season. He was absolutely untouchable. He was sensational. Mm-hmm. And then he had a really, really bad injury. I think he was out for 2 or 3 months and never came back quite the same player. And he's kind of drifted out of the thoughts, I think, of the Rangers support, certainly.
Yeah.
But that game really proved what he can offer. If you give him a chance from the start, if you give him a run of games, hopefully he can go on and produce the same kind of levels that he did last season, because he was a decisive player, there's no doubt about it. I think there's a tendency with Scott Arfield to say, well, he's 33, he's a terrific player, he's been a great servant, he's been a great free transfer for Rangers, has worked out really well, but he's coming to the end of his career. But listen, 33 now, it's not what it was 20 years ago. I think there's a lot of people still kind of go back to that era when you were all effectively finished at that age. Sports science has developed in such a way. There are some players that can go on. You look at Cristiano Ronaldo. I mean, he's not really particularly diminished, and he's in his late 30s. So there are players that can go on. I mean, there are other players, obviously, that if they start very, very young, I think you look like someone like Wayne Rooney, for example, just to get slightly off the point, but who finished their careers earlier because they start so early.
Yeah,
it's basically there's an amount of mileage that every player can cope with. So it'll depend on how much Arfield has gone through the wars in his career, his injuries, situation, how he's looked after himself. But everyone always says that he's ultimate professional. I know John Hughes, back in his time at Falkirk, Arfield was doing all the right things even then. So I don't see a problem with him continuing that. And, he's one of these guys that you think whenever he's in that Rangers team, you know you're going to get out of him. At the very, very, very least, you're going to get a real shift, a lot of effort, a guy who'll stick to the principles and the plan that Gerrard's got in place. And he's always a threat, always a threat, even when he's playing badly.
And I guess you look at someone like Stephen Davis, who, came into, Gerrard called it a midfield masterclass at the weekend, and the ability to rotate him, that same luxury wasn't there last season, keeps him fresh. And, again, Davis is 36, going on 37, and still playing international football, and can still do it. So, yeah, absolutely. I think Arfield offers a great option, and it's the benefit of having a big squad. I think you need over a season when you're playing 60 games, players like Hadji to come in and kind of be in the limelight at the start of the season. Then players like Scott Arfield come in. It can't just be a few players. I think at this level, I think you've got to have a real multitude of them. So real positives for Rangers. Right, we'll leave it there, Jonny. We've got obviously a Brondby preview tomorrow, and then a reaction on Friday. Remember, folks, you can subscribe to the Rangers Review if you enjoy the podcast over on our website, rangersreview.co.uk. Lots of great content on there every single day. And until tomorrow morning, enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, and we'll speak to you prior